I'm in awe of people who break all the rules in order to accomplish their mission. And there's no better example of that than Jesus. Join with me in Mark chapter 5, beginning in verse 21, when we read about Jesus and how he broke the rules in order to accomplish his mission here on earth. Now, Jesus he's in Capernaum now, and he's just been approached by this leader named Jairus. And guys, I have to tell you, I love the Bible, but this is possibly my very favorite passage in all of Scripture. And this man, Jairus, who is a religious leader, falls at Jesus' feet, and he says, "My daughter is dying. I need you." Now, I'm the father of two daughters, and so I can feel this man's pain, and I would be the same as he would, to fall at Jesus' feet to say, "Drop everything, whatever you can do, come and help me." And Jairus does just that. And so Jesus sets off to go and help this man and to heal his daughter. But on the way, he's approached by someone else. And this is so interesting what happens here, and you start to see how Jesus is breaking the rules. This woman approaches Jesus in verse 25. A woman in the crowd had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding. She had suffered a great deal from many doctors, and over the years she had spent everything she had to pay them, but she had gotten no better. In fact, she had gotten worse. This is likely some sort of menstrual bleeding, and I actually had never noticed before now that this thought that as she went to the doctors for help, it only made things worse. So she's not only suffering, but she's continuing to get worse by so-called doctors that are trying to help her. Now, this bleeding would make her ceremonially unclean by Old Testament law, and so what that means is she would miss out on all kinds of spiritual practices. She would be considered unclean by those around her, and so she would be an outcast from society. So the fact that what happens next happens is completely against the rules. Verse 27, she had heard about Jesus, so she came up behind him through the crowd and touched his robe. For she thought to herself, "If I can just touch his robe, I will be healed." Now, she touches Jesus. This is against the rules. This would be the cause for punishment for her. And it would make Jesus ceremonially unclean by extension. But Jesus breaks all the rules. Immediately, the bleeding stopped, and she could feel in her body that she had been healed of the terrible condition. And Jesus turns to her and says, "Who touched my robe?" He knows that healing power had gone out of him. And he says to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Your suffering is over." Jesus breaks the ceremonial rules. He allows himself to be touched. And then he approaches this woman and is focused on her and heals her in the midst of her brokenness. Later on, we don't have time to talk about all of it, but Jesus then goes and approaches this child who is dead. Again, contact with a dead body would make Jesus ceremonially unclean. But he goes in and holds the daughter's hand, and you actually hear Jesus' word in the Aramaic saying, "Little girl, get up." Now, Jesus is breaking all the rules. He's willing to be touched by a ceremonially unclean woman. He's willing to be in contact with a dead body. And furthermore, we see that Jesus is investing in women and children here, which would be countercultural in that time. Jesus is willing to break all the rules in order to advance his kingdom. And so my question for you is, are you willing to go to those, the least of these, as well? Are you willing to extend yourself to those who are perhaps unclean in one way or another, or social outcasts of some kind? This is how we show the love of Jesus to the world around us, by extending the love of Jesus to those who are the outskirts of our culture. Look for ways where you can interact with those who may need a special touch from you, but yet may find themselves on the edges of society. That's how we can show this watching world that the love of Jesus flows through us as well. May you be encouraged with that today. We'll see you next time on the Cornerstone Connection.